Okay, awesome. Okay, so for our campaign, we are doing The Real Cost, which is a tobacco prevention campaign. We are going to cover what the campaign did to send messages to its target audiences, its purpose, the research that went behind it, and the measurable outcomes that the campaign had. Okay, so just a little background on the actual campaign before we get into all the details of it. The Real Cost was an FDA award-winning campaign that worked to prevent youth to use tobacco. So it had a target audience of susceptible youth that were very at risk to trying tobacco and getting addicted and becoming regular tobacco users. So they used many different measurable tactics to work to spread the message about this particular cause. And just a little bit of background, tobacco is the leading preventable cause of disease, disability, and death in the US, so it's obviously a very serious topic. Tobacco is responsible for more than 480,000 deaths a year, and the campaign itself highlights key areas that their demographic are concerned about, such as loss of control based around addiction, dangerous chemicals that are in the various tobacco products, and health effects such as tooth loss and skin damage. And they also spread it to a larger area. So it now covers tobacco, e-cigarettes, and ingestible tobacco products like dip tobacco. That is also very popular. So the goals of the campaign were obviously to prevent the susceptible youth from trying tobacco and keeping all these experimenters from becoming addicted and becoming regular tobacco users. They used loss of control, dangerous chemicals, and health consequences as their key areas to highlight. I'm sure you guys have all seen the campaigns that show people's teeth falling out. They really utilize a lot of good kind of scare tactics to really show how terrible tobacco can be long term. I remember seeing them as a kid and being completely terrified by them. So they really do highlight all of these key areas that make an impact. And they really just target their audience and persuade them against the use of tobacco. Okay, so the target audience of the campaign is actually really interesting. So the campaign itself notes that its target audience is two different subsets of at-risk youth. You can see the two key audiences, at-risk personas that they note on the side right there. But it is 12 to 17-year-old teens who are open or already experimenting with cigarettes, and then rural male teens at risk for smokeless tobacco use, which is things like dip. And I never really realized that this was the key demographic when I would see the commercials all the time, but now it does really make sense that the commercials and all the materials they use to spread their message really do target this particular audience. And the audiences themselves do not consider themselves users and also do not believe they will become addicted. And obviously the campaign makes audiences aware of all of the risks. And I can kind of just go over the little pictures real quick. So the first one is Nikki. She lives a chaotic life, is aged 12 to 17, and struggles with her social and economic situation. At school, she has a poor school environment and low academic achievement. At home, she's living in a suburban area with single parents who do use tobacco at home. She's stressed about her personal situation, poor coping skills. All of that can lead her to smoking and tobacco use. So that is one of their key demographics. And then Travis, which I thought was a really interesting demographic for them to cover, was age 12 to 17-year-old male living in a small rural town. They note that he has strong bonds with his family and friends, has a close-knit group of friends that he's grown up with, and basically all of the people around him use dip and things like that, and that's how he gets into it. It's times like these at fishing, hunting, playing baseball with the guys that he's often exposed to dip, so it's really normalized. And they just did a really succinct job of noting and knowing their key audiences, which I think is really, really important in a campaign.
So if we're going over the type of formative research that should have been done prior to the campaign, and this came from some of our course readings like the Silk article and the Roberto article, some of the things that I think would have been really important prior to like developing the campaign is first identifying the target audience, and this has to do with kind of collecting background data about like the audience's predisposition, and for this campaign it would be ages 12 to 16, and then tailoring this message content and style to that target audience. Next would be identifying the campaign objective and the intended response of the target audience. So this is determining the focus of the campaign through extensive research and literature reviews and analyses, and then also anticipating the audience's reaction to these campaign messages. Lastly would be evaluating the campaign's effectiveness. And this can come from a multiple sided approach, but I think for this specific campaign, it would have been most effective to assess the qualitative reactions to message concepts through like focus groups or surveys or kind of interviews, and then also do some pre-test feedback prior to the actual like final production of the campaign. And the Real Cost actually did a really thorough job with their formative research, and they provide some of this information on their website, which will be cited at the end. But they had research conducted by the FDA, and their formative research included a really comprehensive literature review of the target audience and analyses to identify what the target audience would actually be. And for this campaign, it was at-risk youth, so 12 to 17-year-old teens like Victoria talked about. And then they also did a thorough consultation with experts in tobacco public health education, marketing, and campaign development. After this, they went on to doing some focus groups with individuals from the target audience to identify what are the promising messages and kind of assess their perceptions of the advertising concepts they wanted to do, which for them ended up being some informational like advertisements, and also they did some videos and TV advertisements that kind of targeted this group. And lastly, they did do testing of their near final TV advertisements with individuals from the target audience to measure their perceived effectiveness and their levels of engagement, as well as message comprehension, so how well it actually got to them and how effective it was. Some of the theories that they used in the campaign development, and I picked two, this is from the Roberto article, was social cognitive theory. A lot of their videos in the TV advertisement use a lot of like negative role models. In this theory, the campaign videos kind of illustrate like individuals of the target audience who have become addicted to tobacco and nicotine, and then as a result will face a lot of life-threatening health conditions. Some of the ones they talked about were, your teeth, it affecting and having really bad damage to your teeth, also to your skin, lung damage, and then brain function. And a lot of this comes from this like scare tactic, like Victoria said. So they're trying to show how these behaviors in this target audiences lead to the negative consequences and addiction and lung and brain damage. That's all part of it. And then the second theory that I thought they kind of utilized was reasoned action and planned behavior. And this theory kind of talks about how the best predictor of like human behavior is an individual's attitudes and their predispositions towards the behavior. So for this campaign specifically, they kind of use injunctive and descriptive norms. A lot of their ads and videos demonstrate how especially vaping, but also smoking now has become a trending norm in this at-risk group. It's become pretty like normalized, and they encourage a lot of their viewers to not participate in peer pressure norms. And this is kind of shown, a lot of their videos are taking place in high schools or in locker rooms and bathrooms, a lot of places where they're surrounded by their peers. And that's how this theory kind of comes into play with that. The success of the campaign, I think they actually did a really great job, and this is because they had such thorough, extensive formative research, and they also did utilize some of these theories. So it was really successful because of this, and that's because, they targeted this at-risk audience, and they designed messages around that demographic specifically, based on, where they wanted to do advertisements, how they were going to get it through. I mean, both Victoria and I have seen these on TV all the time, and it did a great job kind of scaring us out of it. They also, measured intended responses by studying the audience behavior, and they tested the perceived effectiveness and message comprehension before they actually put these advertisements out. And then again, they utilized some of these persuasive campaign theories, such as social cognitive theory, and then theories of reasoned action and planned behavior. They included in their website a campaign evaluation, which I thought would be really helpful because it just goes to show you how successful it actually has been. So the FDA actually hired an independent research firm to conduct a kind of multi-year outcome evaluation to measure the campaign's success and tobacco and nicotine-related attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors among this 12 to 17-year-old group. And the studies found that 89% of youth were aware of at least one of the campaign ads 7 months from the launch. And the real cost positively influenced tobacco-related risk perceptions and beliefs specific to campaign messages after 15 months. And then exposure to the real cost ads in this campaign was associated with a 30% decrease in the risk for smoking initiation, preventing an estimated 350,000 US youth ages from 11 to 18 from smoking, which I thought was interesting because their target demographic was actually 12 to 17, but it reached a little bit further than that, just 1 year earlier and 1 year behind. And so overall, this just kind of demonstrates how, specifically with the ad campaign that we chose, The Real Cost, they did a really, really thorough, kind of campaign design and evaluation. They did a ton of literature reviews, they did a ton of research, and they were really, really focused on what they wanted their target audience to be. And they did a great job kind of sculpting how they wanted the ads and the messages to be perceived among this group. And they evaluated it really thoroughly. And obviously they had a very successful campaign. So we included the references just here at the end of what we went over. But I don't know if Victoria, you want to add anything, but that's pretty much it.